Welcome to Organizational Sherlocks, the podcast where business meets psychology and your organizational puzzles meet their match.
Join us for captivating stories and practical solutions to unravel your toughest challenges.
I'm Dr. Elizabeth Fleming.
And I'm Morgan Ashworth, your guides to prescription for business success.
Let's dive in.
Well, happy season 3, Elizabeth. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. I'm so thrilled to be here and excited to be kind of coming back after a time of refresh and taking some time to really think about what organizational Sherlocks is going to look like in the future. How about you?
I am doing good. I'm excited for the new year. We've definitely done a lot of research at Organizational Sherlocks in the back end, just preparing to come back for season 3. I know we took a little bit of a break. So we thank our listeners for giving us that break, but we're happy to be bringing you just that much better of content this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have an awesome lineup of guests that are going to be joining us this year. Lots of really great conversations, things that Morgan and I have been chatting about offline that we want to bring to all of you. So, of course, as always, if there's anything that people want us to be talking about or things you're curious about, just let us know because we are here to help you learn and help ourselves learn in the process. So,
Yeah. Yeah, great. And to our listeners, they can tell when this episode was released, but we're now releasing episodes every Friday instead of on Tuesdays. If we do have any bonus episodes, those will probably still land on Tuesday. But right now, all episode releases will be on Friday based off some feedback we got from you guys.
absolutely. And I don't know about you, but I tend to spend a little bit more time in the car on the weekends. So it's easier for me to listen to podcasts on the weekends. So I'm thrilled about that too.
Yeah,
Not
what
that
better way to
everyone
kick
wants,
off?
yeah, I mean, not that everyone wants to spend their weekends listening to podcasts, but maybe you do. I don't know if that's your thing. So,
Hopefully you do. Hopefully
yeah.
you like listening to us.
All right. Well, I'd love to jump in a little bit and just Morgan, kind of put you on the spot a little bit. I think it'd be fun for our listeners to hear what we've been up to a little bit and kind of do a recap of 2025. Would you be willing to share?
Yeah, I'd love to share. Actually plays into a part of the reason we took a little bit of a breather, ending our second season a little earlier than we were planning. And that's because I had to undergo and create an entirely new org structure for an organization. So that took a lot of my time up through probably about August to September, timeline, obviously fine-tuning it via October through December and finally feeling like we're entering the new year with a brand new organizational structure, a stronger structure, and, stronger team members too, I would say, stronger employee staff group all
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, that kind of ties back to I think an episode we had in season 1 where we talked about org structures. Are you able to share a little bit about maybe some of the best parts about it, maybe some of the challenges you encountered, just to give people an idea of what it feels like to go through that kind of process?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, organizational structure and strategy, if our listeners have been hearing me, is one of my favorite topics. One of my, probably one of my mo- larger specialties, I would argue. Focusing on job titles, job arrangements, the creation of job ladders within that. Also ensuring that there's alignment between the people and the titles, the people and the positions themselves. So not as only organizational driven, but it's also people driven. So down to the individual team member. So when it comes to the org structure, also another part of me is the legal side. We had to go undergo an entire new org structure because within the state of Massachusetts, just like there's FMLA federally, in the state of Massachusetts, there's something called PFML, paid family medical leave, also sometimes called protected family medical leave. Proper term is paid family medical leave. And what that means is it's FMLA, but at a smaller level for smaller organizations. So I had to work with a small organization of under 50 people. FMLA does not affect organizations under 50 people. So I had to work with an organization that small to figure out what they were going to do because they had two leaders go on PFML around the same time.
Wow.
And obviously, you can imagine when a leader goes into PFML, goes on leave, it can drastically affect the work structure for a small organization. Those were 2 out of 5 leaders. So 3 leaders are making up for those 2 leaders being gone, on the front row management side. It was 1 supervisor, 1 manager, in fact. Um, and so with that, there was a lot to consider. One was, does the organization allow these people to go on leave, and protect their positions for when they come back? There is such thing as, sorry, I'm totally blanking right now, but it is required that an employer save that position. But if they can prove, here's the word, undue hardship on themselves, then they can terminate with cause for undue hardship because it's going to have a detrimental effect on the organization. Now, what I can tell you is a lot of organizations prefer to take the reserved side of that and choose not to terminate. And so, thus, an organizational restructure, whether that be temporary or for the future moving forward, needed to take place. So, a temporary organizational restructure did occur where other managers took over that work. In fact, I ended up being the interim sales manager, and I'm still in that role at this point in time. Uh, as, while another manager ended up taking over the entirety of the supervisor's positions who worked under him. Uh, Definitely was, we're making up for more work that I'm making up. I already have a 40 plus hour work week. Now I'm doing someone else's 40-hour work week. Another a team member, he's taking over for 40-hour work week within his own 40-hour work week. So you can imagine there's a lot of stress within that. So not only are the managers or executives taking over work, but the individual team members.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I was thinking about the
yeah,
trickle down effect of that,
mhm.
right? And when you
There's
don't
quite
have someone in those
mhm.
spaces, how it can impact, even frontline employees, and
Yeah.
kind of their perception of the environment and leadership and all of those things. So it's important that you
Mhm.
take a look at it and figure out what is going to be best for the situation right now. Um,
Yeah, and it did
moving
have
forward.
a negative effect, unfortunately, where team members just didn't feel as supported. They didn't feel as stable in their roles. And so there was we faced a little bit of turnover at that point in time as well, which you can imagine just plays into the fact that there has to be an org structure going on, or org
Absolutely.
restructure. Ultimately, both of these leaders chose not to return from PFML. So, while if there was a medically necessary case, it's good that they were able to have the support in the meantime, but legally, if they're planning on not returning from leave, they should not have required the organization to keep their positions at that point in time. So it was disappointing that that is what occurred, but I can be thankful for it now because we were able to bring a more professional level manager on to actually replace the manager who oversaw one of those supervisors. It was too much for that individual. And that individual actually also had personal situations going on. Um, and that person is now also retired, so there was a lot going on at that point in time, but
Yeah.
we were able to hire a more professional individual that came in, and we ended up condensing 3 leader roles into 1 because the leader roles were reevaluated and determined that they were on the floor more than they were doing leadership-based tasks. And so we hired floor-based team members to take over those floor tasks and allowed the leader to be more successful in an actual leader role. Um, Same goes, obviously, I said I'm still interim sales manager, but we've hired an individual to manage the entire HR area. So that is no longer under my purview. Um, so, as you can tell, we had some realignment. Also, really good to have another HR team member so that I can focus on my COO roles. All in the meantime, I did actually become chief operating officer throughout this as well. I was chief people officer last time I spoke with our listeners, but I got a promotion to operating officer. So, Law, quite the large restructure, had to reevaluate job titles across the board, determine what types of staffing we are going to need in the individual departments, um, and overall have to figure out if it's going to work, if it's not going to work, and find suitable leaders to come onto our team as novices to either our industry or us but be open to learning with us with some of the changes that we had to oversee.
Absolutely. Sounds like a lot of change management was required too.
There was certainly a lot of change management required. Ultimately, I can be thankful that it happened. I think we have, like I said, we have a really strong team as we enter into 2026. We also have many team leads, production leads that's like, stood up in this time period and really wanted to be a part of the decision making process management. And so that's been helpful. People also got more autonomy over their individual areas, not that it was pushed onto them, but they wanted this autonomy and they actually have accepted it and facilitated it with ease. I know I went into more of the nitty gritty of some parts of it, kept it overall with others, but that's because I can't go through the exact job titles for each and every one.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've been through similar restructures. One that was really large, went from a kind of a regionalized model and brought it back in right after COVID, due to staffing changes and kind of needs, finances, and all of the different things that impact business, right? And bringing it more into a centralized model. And the change management that was required, and frankly, the leadership that was required was just it was eye-opening for me, being a part of that. And I think that it just speaks to, making sure you have, the best leaders in the right places, right? As well as kind of that leadership. How do I say this? Like, it can be easy to focus on the org structure and the business components, and all of those things are incredibly important. And it is just as vital that you focus on the people leadership side as well. And it sounds like that's what y'all did. And in the example that I just shared in my own experience, that was a really a big consideration is how do we ensure that we are creating time and creating space for people to come and talk to leaders and for there to be that support and the acknowledgement that, like, yeah, this is hard sometimes and we're in this together and we can move through it.
Yeah, I feel like there's more touch-based meetings that have to happen, more check-ins, ensure that, jobs are getting implemented and hired for in a timely manner as well. But then finally, there needs to be a pretty strong level of openness in the leaders at that point in time. Not only the leaders already on the team, but leaders you're hiring on, because
Exactly.
they might need to take over more or help shift responsibilities to somebody else or temporarily cover something or get to know a new position so that they can then properly train for that new position. I find it interesting when a leader doesn't understand the day to day of their staff, right? And so it's really important that whomever you bring on as a leader will want to know the nitty gritty of that project, of that staff team member's position. Not saying they need to know the day to day every single day,
Right.
meaning they need to know every task, every project that comes through their plate, but they do need to have an awareness of how the position runs and also be able to do it themselves so that they can properly lead it. I will say in this organizational restructure, while there's plenty of people in like a manufacturing industry like this company is based in, that we could have chosen from, we ended up going with someone that had the capacity within their um, I guess within their skill sets, the capacity within their skill sets, not the skill sets themselves to deal with that type of environment, but the capacity to do so based off of another environment they worked in. And so it's about potential at times more than it is about a direct level of experience within the industry. And in focusing on that, we brought the most self-sustainable people on to the new roles that we could.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can teach like you said, you can teach the nitty-gritty, the detailed pieces, right? And I think that's really important. When you look at potential and you look at leadership potential or just even kind of working potential, all of those things, there's, I think, a lot more, and maybe this is a future conversation, but the transferable skills, right? It's not
Say
always a
trans
one to one like, I can do this or I have a skill in this, but that might translate into a different area and actually be something that invites kind of curiosity and diverse thought and new ways of thinking about things and innovation, if you want to think about it that way. simply because you're bringing in someone who kind of has fresh eyes, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. For example, if let's say you're trying to hire a machine operator in the manufacturing world, well, do they have one type of machine operating experience that possibly relates to the role? Well, if that's so, then great. But do they have the exact machinery that you're working on? Maybe not. That doesn't mean that skill isn't transferable. They already have an understanding of how you work in by the process in which you work, and they probably have a personality to support it a little bit. And so then it's easy to then train the skill of working with this different machine. Even if it's not the exact one, they still have the skill sets that support that one singular, hard skill, I guess you'd call it, with the machine.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that you mentioned the personality thing because that's one, and then that's one part of it, right? Bigger, kind of bigger lens, but it does make me think about that because I work with some companies at times where they might be hiring for a similar title or even the same title, but within different teams. A lot of it is dependent on the size of the company. Larger companies tend to have bigger, teams that are kind of segmented out, even though they have people with titles that are similar, right? And so if the goal is to kind of figure out what is going to be best for that team and best for that department or whatever it is, you may be looking at a slightly different, personality or motivational profile, right? And kind of figuring out what is best for not just that title, right? And so it's kind of removing the focus of on rigid skills, right? Or rigid personality features and looking at what is best for the people around them so that they can really work in a team environment that helps them be successful, but helps their team be successful too. So I think there's kind of it's a bit nuanced, yes, but it is something that I absolutely love about the work I do because I get to learn about all those things. So
Yeah, I was actually gonna say, I'm like, I feel like we're kind of transitioning into a little bit of
yeah.
maybe what your yearly recap will look like. I dealt with some turmoil, but at the same time, it put us in a much better spot. But maybe I could have used someone like you helping me along the way. I actually remember I
Ooh,
did message you saying, "Hey, I might need your help," but
absolutely.
the way in which we worked, we need a little bit faster than that. But doesn't mean we're not going to implement it in the future with you. So tell us a little bit
Right.
about your 2025, Elizabeth.
Yeah, 2025 was busy. It was fun and busy. Obviously, I own App a Day Consulting, so I've been really working a lot with my clients, doing a lot of assessments for pre-hire as well as development assessments, and then being able to kind of take. I think of one client in particular where I'm able to kind of or was able to take that work over the last 3 years with them and the assessments we've done and the coaching that we've done with their leadership team, and then really bringing that together into a team based, facilitated kind of, I don't want to call it a workshop, just an experience. And it was so empowering. And I think back to the couple of days that we spent with them, um, and just some of the insights and the patterns that people on their team have, and kind of highlighting all of these pieces has been really neat. So that happened towards the end of 2025, and since then, been continuing to meet with some of these client or these leaders individually, and hearing what stood out to them is it's really interesting. My job is again just to help them build that individual self-awareness, but also help them understand each other. And then, as I mentioned, what the patterns are, what the gaps in the team are, what the strengths are, because then they can make really strategic decisions about who to involve at what point in time. There are things that like I'm a very detail oriented person. If you need somebody to find errors in spreadsheets, like I can do that. I'm really, really good at that. So, and I don't mean to talk myself up, but what I can say is my team knows when we need this, we should engage Elizabeth in the process, right? Well, there's other things that I can do, but it doesn't bring me joy or get me excited to do them. I'm not motivated by them. Those are moments where I know then on my team, right? Or in this case, my client's team, they know who to reach out to for those things as well. But I will say, I think one of the biggest impacts of that the team experience for them was realizing that yes, they have different departments and different titles, and different job duties, right? but being able to see where those bridges were and start to connect those bridges between them was probably the most profound impact of our time together. And it was really cool to see that light bulb go off. So all in all, I have many examples of different clients that I work with in doing that. Been doing some training, helping people figure out how to start up a business in the healthcare space. That's going to continue into 2026, probably even ramp up a little bit more. So there's again a lot going on. Busy at home. I got my little kiddos. I think I've shared I have little kids at home. So we're deep into hockey season right now. And even then, I have to share this with you because it's so funny. So I coach my son's hockey team, right? And so last night we did lose our game and it was really sad and everyone was really upset. And kind of the attitude started drifting. It made me think because I said something that now I translate into I say this at work all the time and probably too. Um, I said, you guys, keep in mind they're 9 to 11 years old. So a little bit different. But I said, you guys, do you know what we know about the way we think about things? And I said, no, what? And I said, well, in psychology, when we really, really want to do well, we want to perform well, our attitude has to go along with it, you know? So if you're sitting here saying, well, this is awful, or this person is terrible, or we're never going to win this game, your performance is going to suffer, right? But if you say, I'm going to try my hardest, I'm going to get out there and skate, I'm going to do these things, your performance is gonna be better, right? Doesn't mean you'll win the game every time, but it means that you're, in it, you're invested in it. And I just heard myself saying that to their team yesterday and then kind of walked out and said, wow, I do that a lot with my clients too.
Mhm. I
I don't know.
it talks about transfer. I mean, okay, let me start again. Talk about transferable skills. You're
Right.
talking to children in the same way that you sometimes talk to adults. Maybe the way you explain it's a little different,
It
but
was a
I
little bit
actually
age
yeah,
appropriate.
yeah, exactly. I had a leader who officially got promoted this past fall in quarter 4 of 2025, and one thing that we really drove home that I felt like got her to that leadership level to get that promotion was your skill set at home with how you deal with your kids is similar to the way in which you will work with those that are reporting to you. And so that has helped her exceed to an amazing extent. Night and day. I knew she wanted this promotion. I knew she wasn't necessarily ready for it. She even knew that she was using other leaders as crutches when she would have an issue and even would just try to talk to a team member as an equal like more longevity in the company, everything else, but still as equal. Once I said that to her, night and day, leadership to the max. You could see that she was developing that followership, and now she has a team that respects her, that looks up to her, not just as their equal, but as their leader, someone they would want to follow, developing that followership. So talk about transferable skills right there, Elizabeth.
100%. I can see things that like my husband and I do at home and it's like, oh, well, that tracks because it's what we, do at work or it's, whatever. And I think that's pretty cool. So coaching is not always just about, the things that are going wrong or things that could be different or whatever. A lot of times it's how can we utilize the skills that you have and the strengths that you have in a way that is going to help you be more impactful, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And a lot of times, I can't tell you how many times my clients will say, well, that makes sense because at home, my wife or my husband or my partner or my whatever say these things about me. And then it's like a connecting point. It just makes sense. And so I don't know. That's the cool thing for me is I see myself as a partner with my clients in whatever we're doing. I am not there to tell them what the best route is or sometimes they ask me and I'll be honest and direct about it. But my goal is really to help them kind of feel that it's a safe space for them to explore the things that maybe they just haven't really thought of exploring
Yeah.
before.
And I feel
So
like you're there to support them, and so, obviously, you're not going to allow them to steer themselves in the wrong direction.
no,
But
and they
but
won't. They
you're
won't. They'll be fine.
yeah, I know, but I'm saying, like, you're not there to just, like, let them do whatever they want and kinda just go along with it, right? As you say, you're partnering with them, and so you're advising them, you're helping them wherever you can, but you still have that support framework, so it's not going to be a dictatorship where you're saying, well, I'm the consultant and this is what I say, so this is what's right. Which I
Exactly.
see plenty of consulting companies do that, and it's disappointing when I see that, but I think that's what's different about you and your consulting, and I also would argue that's how I act in every single role I've had, anytime I've consulted, it's, "Well, what do you want to see come out of this? And are you
Absolutely.
open to feedback and critiques on how I might alter it if I were in your shoes?"
Yeah, that's usually the first, like, when I am working with a new client or even just a existing client with a new engagement. I mean, that's one of the first things I ask is, how will you know that this has been successful? What would you like it to look like? Well, how do you see the process, kind of playing out? And if we do need to pivot, we need to adjust, how would you prefer that we communicate that to one another? And I think just being able to use language like that shows that you're partnering with them. Again, I'm not coming in there as the person who knows everything about everything. I mean, I know a lot about my work, right? I know quite a lot about my work. And what I do in my work is sometimes adjusted slightly based on the context of my client because not all my clients are the same.
Well,
They just don't.
as I say, there's a blueprint that you can kinda go off of when it comes to a lot of these change management initiatives, but all in all, every single one has to be customized. You get a blueprint of a house. I'm building a house right now, so I know you get the blueprint of the house. That doesn't mean that's exactly how the house is going to work. Guess what? My stairs moved a little. Guess what? I removed a closet from somewhere and opened up the ceiling there.
Right.
The flooring is not gonna be the same from one house to the house that I'm building, right? And so you can have a blueprint, but you're going to change the specifics to best fit that environment. So talk about, likes and dislikes and strengths and weaknesses like you're saying on that team. The same idea goes for when you're building a change management or an organizational restructure for an environment. It's based off of what is available in that environment, strengths, weaknesses, likes, dislikes, even of the organization itself, and then basing it around that.
Pre-work is so important, just talking to people, but I think in my mind, like,
Also,
yeah, like, in my mind, it mirrors what it means to be human, right? Like, there's complexity to it, but I love the complexity. I thrive in that space. Like, it makes me so excited to just kinda see how it all comes together. So, that was a very long response to your question about how was 2025, but, I will say if I were to capture 2025 for me, it was, from a work perspective, very inspiring. It was enlightening. I'm able to now see what I would like to have happen in 2026, and really putting those steps in place, if you will, while also being able to find that balance of my family and making sure that I'm prioritizing my kiddos because there's nothing I love more than hanging out with both of my kids actually at hockey. I know that's silly, but you know me, Morgan. Listeners probably know now I'm a huge hockey and sports person.
my partner is a hockey person, so I know if we have kids, it's gonna be all hockey.
Well,
So,
I know. I know all about it. I'm skating out there multiple times per week, and I just
well, I don't know if I'll
absolutely
be out there
love it.
skating, I'll be honest. I'm the runner, and, I love snowmobiling, I love skiing. I don't know if I'll be skating though, personally.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Yeah,
But yeah, so big things coming, and excited that we're back in the podcast mode because I have missed this so much. But I think it was a great time for us to have that refresh and focus in, and it also speaks to the fact that it's okay to try to find balance in your life, and I just want to normalize that because sometimes things it's not the right time or you need to take a break or whatever it is, and being honest with yourself and with the people around you about that can lead to bigger and better and greater, and I think really truly that's where we're headed
yeah,
in
and even
2026.
then the different seasons of your life have different focuses. And so, for example, the season of the company I was working with, and when we took a little break, for me, it was all about getting ensuring that restructure happened so that we could kick 2026 off with a bang, with those fireworks and celebrating instead of feeling like we're still playing catch up from
Absolutely.
unfortunate leaders that we ended up losing. It wasn't bad. Actually forced the company to reevaluate its positions and its team and the strengths and weaknesses from how they bridge together. So it does
Absolutely.
go hand in hand. Like Elizabeth was talking about a project she worked on. I know there was plenty of other projects I worked on. management wise over the course of 2025, including, sales goals, sales development, marketing work, all within the organizational development sphere, fitting it to the strategic vision of the company. But 2026, we have a really great foundation under us, plus some other organizations I'm actually working with now as well, ensuring that they have a proper foundation as they get started.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think it's great, and I'm excited for I keep looking at the lineup of guests we have coming, and it's just
I'm looking at our lineup of
wild.
guests with our schedule,
Yeah,
and the topics we're going to have. I mean, I'm just looking at some of them here, having purpose-driven perks within our benefits, talking about when conflict can be a good thing, motivation beyond the bonus. We have
mhm,
a lot to talk about.
sure
Um,
do.
I'm still trying to talk Elizabeth into allowing us to talk about her new calendar that she got.
We can totally do that. So, we'll just give
Boy,
a little bit of a hint. I'm, as I mentioned, very detail oriented, therefore I am very organized in my life, and I got the best calendar ever. It's like a digital calendar that has everyone's schedules. Oh, okay, we can talk about that another time, but I am, like, thrilled. I love it.
honestly, we could have a whole topic surrounding Iowa psychology
Yeah,
and within that calendar alone. I think it would be a great metaphor. But with that, let's kick off season 3. Welcome back, listeners, and we look forward to talking with you more.
absolutely. Can't wait to share a lot about what's coming up, and we'll see you in the next few weeks. Again, reach out if there's anything that you want to chat with us about, or if you have a story you'd like to share. Maybe it'd be a good fit for us. So let us know. Well, listeners, this concludes another intriguing episode of Organizational Sherlocks. I'm Elizabeth Fleming.
And I'm Morgan Ashworth, reminding you that the journey to success is an ongoing investigation.
Always remember to stay curious, stay strategic, and keep utilizing insights to decode your business mysteries.
Join us every now Friday for your next Who Done It. This is Organizational Sherlocks closing today's case.
We will see you all next time.